Hello, I'm Stephanie Tsai. Welcome to the Toyota Solutions Studio here at Women in the World 2018 in New York City. I'm so excited to be joined by somebody I got to meet last year, actually, Sarah Evans. She is the founder and CEO of a nonprofit organization called Well Aware that addresses water needs. And I know you started in East Africa, so I want to get into that. But she is also a Toyota Mother of Invention honoree from last year. So I'm so excited to hear where things have come, but let's start by just talking about the concept you came up with for Well Aware and how you are providing clean water for people that need it in East Africa.
Yes, thank you, and I'm so honored to be back here with you. So Well Aware began about a decade ago. I started the organization because I was asked to help with a project in East Africa to raise money for some livestock. I got really involved and did a lot of research, and I realized that the livestock were dying because of the drought and the lack of water, and there was a lot of other suffering in the community because there was no source of water. So I decided and convinced everybody that we should instead drill a water well. And so we did. We raised the money and we did, and I fell in love with the work on that first project.
It seems so obvious, right, to drill a well. Why hadn't that been done before?
That's a great question. It had, and it is. The big problem is that about 40% of the water wells that are drilled in Africa don't end up working. So I realized that too very early on in the work on that first trip. So I knew that I wanted to shift gears. I have a law degree and devote my life to this work, but I wanted to figure out a model and put together a team so I could do it correctly.
Okay, so let's talk about the concept, because this is where the innovation comes in. It's not just a simple well, it's also the organization.
Yes.
And the technology, I assume.
Yes. So we did our own independent study, and we evaluated over 200 broken water systems in Kenya, and we discovered that the #1 reason for system failure was some kind of technical oversight or mistake. So we have a team of hydrogeologists and engineers now that help to vet, design, implement, and follow up on all of our projects. And a close second reason for system failure is lack of true community partnership, engagement, and training. So our whole model is based on a focus on those two components. And so now, 8.5 years later, we still have 100% success rate, and I'm really proud of it.
How did your law degree help you in figuring this out?
I don't know. It must have. I mean, in the beginning, and with some of the legal logistics, that has come in handy, and maybe just sort of the kind of thinking and approach. I'm extremely compassionate about the work and my team and the people we get to serve, but I'm also very realistic about the approach.
Where is the organization now, and how far has it come since you were awarded the Toyota Mother of Invention honor?
It's only been a year, and it's been a phenomenal year. Because of Toyota's support, last year we were able to complete more projects in a single year than we ever have before. We've gained a lot of visibility and credibility because of the honor and the recognition.
Sure.
So now I'm asked to speak frequently all over the U.S. and beyond as a subject matter expert on the work, which is wonderful because we get to share our model and our lessons learned so that other people can conduct the work and design their projects in a similar fashion so we can have a higher success rate industry-wide.
And have you been back to Kenya and checked out these wells and see how they're working?
So many times, yes. I think this year alone I'll be back 6 times, and it's my favorite part of my job. But we also have a staff of 4 based in Kenya now, and we're in 51 different communities now.
It's a nonprofit organization, and I know that we've talked before about you have your heart in the technical aspects of it, in community building, with local stakeholders, all of that, but you have to fundraise. How challenging has that been?
Fundraising is always a challenge, and I've spoken with people who are parts of large organizations, and they say the same thing. Fundraising is just
like 99% of what they have to do. It feels like
it is, and I'm not a fundraiser by training, but I think I've learned along the way, and we formed some really great partnerships, largely due to the Toyota recognition, and so that's improved our development work.
I feel like recognition matters so much.
It really does, yeah.
Okay, so you've been back at least 6 times just this year. What impact does it have on a community to have fresh water? What sort of knock-on effects and positive outcomes do you see as a result of that?
You know, it's funny. We go back to some of our communities where we installed a water system years prior, and it looks like a different place.
Wow.
So, because we install these sustainable water systems, and that's great when it's there and the water's pumping for the first time, but our objectives are that all these other things are going to change in the community. We call it our ripple effect. So disease rates go down. Women aren't walking all day for water, so they're investing in their families and they're creating businesses.
This is a huge thing,
Yeah.
is that women in some parts of the world have to walk for miles and lug heavy jugs of water.
Yes.
And this happens throughout the African subcontinent.
It does, and and it's not just the time spent, and wasted where they could be devoting that time elsewhere. It opens them up to all kinds of danger.
It's a real woman's issue, and I know that you are also a mother.
Yes, I am.
Our daughters are about the same age, and I wonder, first of all, do you bring her with you, and does she get to see what mommy's doing when she's not at home?
Not yet. She has her passport.
Okay.
And she loves to travel, and she does travel with me domestically sometimes. And man, she's a pro, and she thinks she's so ready to travel overseas with me, and I think she is too, probably next year.
One thing I'm interested in women who are really social entrepreneurs, and it must take so much energy, is how you balance it all. How do you balance what is such an important mission and such an ambitious one with what is really the hard work of also being a mom?
Yeah, I don't balance it. It's always off
I love
balance.
the honesty. Yeah, it's always
yeah.
a little out of whack.
It's always, and I have this incredible village at home too, family and friends and coworkers.
That's great.
Who end up babysitting sometimes, and so that's what makes it all work.
I'm sure there are so many important lessons you can teach her when you come home and you show her pictures of how you're changing the world. How do you talk about those problems? How do you speak to a young girl about what they may not know and what they may take for granted, especially here in the United States? Clean water.
Yes, it's challenging with a small child to introduce and talk about the issue without, creating a lot of fear.
Yeah.
But we've been talking about it since we could have a conversation, and she does understand that, she's privileged. I mean, we live a very humble life, but in contrast.
Sure.
And so I think that she has an appreciation, not just for the work that I do, but for what we have available to us here. And she loves being a part of the Well Aware team, and she says that she's the vice president.
And I'm sure your biggest moral support. What's next for Well Aware? Where would you like to see things go? What's your sort of short-term, medium-term, long-term hopes?
We want to share our model, and we would really like to disrupt the industry and create a change sector-wide. It's not okay that so much of this work is done incorrectly. It's a huge waste of resources. It's a huge insult and devastation to communities. So Well Aware will continue to scale within East Africa. We also now have launched another company that is consulting for other NGOs, and that company will drive revenue to the nonprofit. So we can scale further through the for-profit company working with other NGOs with boots on the ground in those regions.
I also remember last year you doing something crazy to raise money for your organization.
Yeah.
I think it was called the Shower Challenge. Was it the No Shower Challenge?
Shower strike.
The shower strike. So the No Shower Challenge.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? Are you going to do it again?
Oh yes, I'm doing it right now. I'm just kidding.
That's what it is.
It's every April, so it will start next week. And yes, it's the 10th anniversary of this crazy campaign. But more and more people join every year, and it's a great way to raise funds, but it's also a really effective way to spread awareness and bring new people into the cause that might not be paying attention otherwise.
Okay, so how does it work? How does you just don't shower and raise money for every hour you don't?
Well, that's a good idea though. We have a crowdfunding platform at showerstrike.org, and people just go and sign up. They have their own webpage, and then it's just sort of like a race or a run, and you ask people to donate and share, except for instead of having to run, you just say you're not going to shower until you raise your goal amount.
Wow. And how much did you raise the last time you did this?
$185,000.
Wow. Women in the World is always really inspiring for me because I think it's challenging being a working woman, being a working mother. There are all sorts of issues we're going to discuss in this studio. But does it give you sort of extra energy to go back and do your work when you're surrounded by these women, that many of whom similarly have come up with creative innovations to tackle huge problems? Huge
problems, yes, and they are, and it's so inspiring. And I feel changed by being a part of this group. I don't feel so insane and abnormal anymore. You know, we all struggle with similar things, and now we have this think tank together, and we get to come up with ideas and support each other, and it's been a game changer for me.
How else has your work changed you? Because you were doing something completely different before you started this nonprofit.
As a lawyer.
You were a lawyer. What kind of lawyer were you?
I did securities law.
Okay, so that's pretty different. I wouldn't say soulless, but it's a very, very different kind of work.
Yeah.
Do you ever have any regrets leaving securities law?
No. I mean, it's harder to pay the bills, but no regrets. I love this work so much. I get to, empower these women on the other side of the world, and I get to work with these brilliant and amazing people here who all care so much about it, and meet fascinating people. It's where I belong.
Was there a really steep learning curve when you were trying to figure out how to set up the nonprofit, and who were sort of your gurus and rabbis and priests to try to understand what you needed to do?
I'm still on that learning curve because we want to always learn and grow, and I do too personally, but I have relied heavily on mentors, many of whom have been very strong and successful women.
And how did you find those mentors? I mean, I feel like this is helpful advice for young women that might be interested in following a similar path.
I stalked them.
50 emails a day.
I can be persistent when I want to be. It is difficult getting no or not being replied to, but typically if you just
how did you identify who would be the right person to guide
Sometimes it's organic, you meet people and you click, but other times too, I've sought out a relationship with somebody that I really wanted to be like. And it just takes a little bit of time, patience, and persistence, and proving yourself.
Who are some of your heroes and some of the women that inspired you when you were growing up?
My mother is an incredible person. She is an entrepreneur and a very, very strong matriarch and very driven, very logical, and pushed me. And I think it's largely because of her and her influence, and as a role model that I'm here today.
I'm sure she is so proud of you, Sarah. Sarah Evans, thank you so much for joining us in the Toyota Solutions Studio.
Thank you.